Don't call them tinfoil hats because they will be very upset. I'm talking about UFO believers, people who believe that these flying saucer type crafts are of extraterrestrial or exotic technologies outside of this planet. The issue with ufology, the study of UFO phenomenon, is that it's plagued with ambiguousness, with air of deniability, with ever-growing technologies that are essentially making the evidence more difficult to ascertain whether it's real or possibly fake. But sometimes you get a case that is so, how do you explain it? Face whacking, just in your face, unbelievable. It literally alters your reality, your paradigm on the spot. And I believe that's exactly what we have today. So if you're interested to know what we're talking about, please stay tuned. So if you're wondering where that UFO that I just showcased came from, well, it came from an individual that we had highlighted before in this episode who had experienced what some people would call alien abduction phenomenon. Now, what was so interesting about this individual and why I highlighted his case was because of the independent confirmations that were occurring with other cases, other credible individuals who had also provided evidence that was forensically verified, that I was able to tell in a way that they shot this with their camera, for example. And to me, you know, being a photo studio manager and being able to analyze the photos in a deeper way, it kind of shocked me, to say the least. Some of the things that these people described were things that I never heard of, but upon describing them, suddenly, within a couple days, there was a documentary that came out in the Secure Chain channel called Australian Skies 2. And this particular individual that I just showcased this image, well, according to him, he had experienced a motherly female creature, something that another abduction victim had also discussed. But what's so remarkable about these descriptions is that they seem to match a description that was given on this documentary by Secure Team only a couple days afterwards. So if you've never heard about this and you're trying to tackle this alien abduction case and you're wondering if this is real, and suddenly a documentary comes out 2 days later telling you basically the exact same type of description of a motherly, very pale skinned, almost mushroom white skinned creature, well, you have to start second guessing yourself, because certainly it'd be difficult to think that all of these individuals are somehow networking from some common source of like a UFO Bible and then creating a mass conspiracy in the World Wide Web. Just to highlight why I believe this individual might be credible, it says here in the email, 1. I worked for a major airline right under aircraft, and 2. I had my own private company, subcontracted for security on runway and taxiways. So I'm familiar with what aircrafts look like coming in and the federally required lightings of the craft. Today I work for a major company in a technological capacity. I do well for my family. Just to give you a feel for the fact that I'm no tinfoil hat wearing nutball. The reason why I haven't gone public with a video or official media, or that I only spoke with MUFON in private, is that I don't want anyone to judge me as a crazy parent. I'm very careful not to speak about this on the subject near my kids in such a manner that it might possibly cause unhealthy thoughts or beliefs for unprepared minds. So right away to me, this individual came off as somebody who seemed to be more concerned about his family than he was about his own personal recognition over having spotted a UFO. So what I decided to do is I went ahead and I took his footage and I decided to process it in After Effects, where I essentially rendered it out into 10,000, I don't know, it must have been like 20,000 different JPEGs. I programmed Photoshop to do a series of performances on the images that would allow me to use a channel mixer to pierce through that lighting effect, that ambient lighting effect that you're seeing under the object, to see if there's anything underneath. So after programming the Photoshop program to automate this particular set of actions, I went ahead and I batch processed the 20,000 JPEGs into this program, and upon getting a result from the computer, I went ahead and I compiled those images like you would a time lapse into a video format. So hope that didn't sound too technical, but here is the results. So pretty amazing, right? I mean, the one thing that really caught my attention, to be honest with you, and these are things that I think are very unique. Not would it only be very creative to fake this, but it's just something that you wouldn't see in a regular terrestrial type object. And what I'm talking about exactly is, if you notice this particular video and you go to the end of it, right? This is what caught my attention. Look at all the color shifts that you're getting here, because all I did is I took the layer and I essentially put a color layer over the extracted channel mixing layer, using the channel mixing layer as the background layer essentially. And so these are the actual real colors that are coming from the film footage. And let me show you what's happening here. Look how it's colored red, kind of purplish, orange. And as it continues and it gets to the very end, look at this. The color goes away. Slowly it starts dimming and it starts looking almost kind of black and whitish. Look at that. Look how black and white, look how monotone that is. And as it continues to stay monotone as the object slowly recedes. And this is very similar to how he described seeing the object too, seeing that this object just seemed to get smaller and smaller from his perception. And look at this, it's completely devoid of color now, just completely monotone. So how is it that object goes from creating all these different color shifts up here to suddenly, as it dims out, going completely monotone? Now, unfortunately, when I processed these JPEGs, I forgot to process the very, very beginning of the footage, but I'm going to show you in After Effects what happens at the very beginning of the footage, because this is actually kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and put that video file of his. And this is the original video. But if you look at the very, very beginning, right? And I'm going to zoom in. Look how monotone that is. So you see colors over here, but as you go to the actual object, it's as if it has absolutely no colors Look at this. That looks like pure black and white. But this is not a black and white image, guys. Look, there's green underneath here. So how does something go from completely black and white to suddenly displaying all kinds of crazy color shifts? So to me, this is not characteristic of a terrestrial object. To me, this is something that is very unusual, and it's just something that I thought was interesting that I should highlight to you guys. And then also, if you take a look at the footage, it's, you know, I can't tell if this is a small object, because part of the reason of trying to extract this with channel mixers is to try to get beyond the ambient lighting that's around it to see if there's anything else underneath it, like an object, for example. And in analyzing this, what I notice is whatever is illuminating this seems to be a lot smaller than the actual perceived object itself, meaning the surrounding circumference of the major luminance that you're seeing. And as you can tell, it's just kind of a little speck over here. And what's interesting also is that you notice that the center, and the reason why the center and the outside are black and white almost contrast colors, is because these are different wavelengths. These are completely different wavelengths in the color spectrum. So whatever this object is, it's giving off a light that is inherently different than the wavelength that is being bounced off the object itself. So that's something else to note. But there are a few interesting frames. This is when he starts zooming in. So, and it's, you know, look, it's really hard to tell if this is a completely spherical object, but it does seem to be spherical in aggregate. I would assume that most of this polygonal shapes is just some artifacting that's happened in trying to increase the size of this object. But look how small the object looks in these type of frames. Look at this. It's as if it almost ceases to exist. And look, the darker it gets, the smaller the object becomes. And I'm really interested with these shifts. I mean, look, it goes from green to red to small objects to pure red to then bluish. I mean, what the hell is this? I mean, this is so strange to me. Suddenly, look at that. What is that? It just turns monotone again? Purple, monotone. I mean, what is this? So the color shifts seem to be very dramatic at times, and at times it seems to be very tranquil, I would say. It's very weird. And the fact that this individual has given evidence before, let me show you what I'm talking about here. One of the evidences that he provided a long time ago. That scar that he's giving, that came from his body, guys. Look at this. That's not a joke. Because I had another abduction victim who, at the exact same time that he was contacting me because I had created an alien abduction episode, well, he also sent me pictures of triangular looking scars. So I had other individuals give me pictures that I would say resembled almost exactly like this. Oh, this very triangular looking, strange looking mark. You know, look, I want to read some of the descriptions, because if you didn't catch the alien abduction video, it's absolutely horrifying what these people had to go through. So it says here, I woke seeing a dark blackness in my room. Then my eyes came into focus and realized that I was expecting to see 3 feet away when there was something right in front of me, in my face, that was black. And I focused in it and snap, my head just shot back, and then I saw this face briefly of a long-faced gray. It was only for a glance, and I think I recall seeing wrinkles in the skin. The second I was paralyzed and could make out a small figure which I thought seemed female, but really there was no indication to prove that. I did see its right hand go right out of my view and come back with a fish tank type tubing with a green needle, and its hand was 3 fingers long with black, sharp, shiny claws like eagle claws. Now I want to stop here right here and let you know that the other people who also claimed to be abducted by aliens also talked about a green tube that was placed, and I believe he said his right nostril, and I believe most of the cases that I've heard have come from the right nostril. So they're even specifying the exact hemisphere of the nostril in which this thing is being placed in. And you have to wonder, what the fucking crazy Because look, before getting these cases, I didn't know about this fish tank green tube that puts substances that makes people feel good, and also that the pain goes away. I mean, is this some type of heroin? Allows the people to essentially forget the experience in a blackout type state, where they're kind of able to enjoy it to a certain extent, but also able to block it out. I don't know, man. I mean, this stuff just seems all weird to me. Really, just way too real. I don't know if I told you guys this. I have a personally family member who works in a very, very high degree of professionalism. They got their own practice. And this person's mother came up to me in my brother's wedding and essentially confessed that this family member, since the age of 5, has been having experiences related to alien abductions. In fact, because of the experiences was part of the reason why this person got in their particular profession. Very crazy. And then I get these alien abduction cases where all these different individuals are seemingly having similar experiences to each other. It's just something that I think needs to be talked about a lot more. And people need to stop calling people tinfoil hat, because I'm telling you, the evidence is there. You just have to look at it. Talking about evidence, let me showcase you what another alien abduction individual who we had discussed in a previous episode, and I'm not talking about the one that we just discussed, I'm talking about a second one. Right around the time that I got this video, so the second individual ended up sending me some images that I want to briefly show you guys, because upon analyzing it, well, certainly it's strange to say the least. So I want to start off with this one image, because this is an image that he sent a long time ago, and I found it so fascinating because in sending me this image, he was trying to showcase these particular objects, right, that were in the frame. I mean, could this be a bird? Is it an airplane? Is it Superman? I don't know. We got to analyze this. But upon analyzing this image, I noticed that really far in the background, something that he did not notice or did not mention was this little tiny speck right over here. You can barely see it, right? So I went ahead and started analyzing it. So I went and I reduced the noise, cropped the image, did an image size, and did levels, and this is what we get, guys. Certainly not an artifact, because whatever it is that is occurring in this background, well, this object, first of all, wasn't even noted by the individual who took the image. Secondly, it seems to be protruding through the clouds, as if it's punching a hole through the clouds, if you can see. Not too different from the descriptions of the Chicago O'Hare incident, where all kinds of different people who worked for the FAA, who worked for the airlines, were seeing a UFO over the runway that, upon leaving the Chicago O'Hare area, penetrated holes through the clouds. But the recent images that he sent me, right around the same time that the first individual sent me the videos, so let me show you the first screen capture that he got here. So at first it looks kind of like not that big of a deal, just a couple little dots, right? But we can do a little more analysis, and I went ahead and cropped it, image size, levels, and let me show you what we got here. Definitely looking a little more interesting. So I didn't get the full video yet. He's gonna send it to me, I think. But in taking the second screenshot he gave me, I went ahead and I decided to process this once again. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Check this out. So we got an object here. We got another object over here. So I went ahead and I cropped it. I did a nice little image size on it. And then what I did is I did that same method I did the previous analysis, where I went ahead and extracted with the channel mixer and then put a color layer on top of it. Well, let me show you the end result here. Crazy, right? Almost looks like some crazy scene from like a Star Wars film. But what I'm curious is, what are these little white dots? The white dots almost seem to be emanating from this center object, as if it's more concentrated in this area and kind of slowly coming out, almost like the way you think how neurons communicate with different neural transmitters. I don't know how else to describe it. It's really interesting. And just for kicks, we'll do a third image, one last one. Go ahead and crop it. And this is really cool because, you know, when you look at the final result, you get this like configuration that almost looks like a little bit like the Phoenix lights, right? So in going further with this, in trying to analyze what some people might just think as little dots at first, look at the shape of these things. I mean, this is kind of, I don't know, it's like a TRB3 shaped kind of. It definitely seems to be structural. Every single one of these objects don't just have the central lighting, but also seem to have a darkening region on the outside, which is why I'm indicating potential structure to this. And look, these are coming from, like I said, individuals who are giving me pictures of scars, individuals who are claiming alien abduction experiences, individuals who are talking about similar type of beings that they're witnessing that just happen to mirror the exact description of other individuals who were contacting me around the same time. So to me, you can say whatever you want. You can call them tinfoil hats. You know, the way that I run myself, the way that I look at information in the world is I try to keep an open mind, but I try to be highly attentive to independent confirmations. And I think that's very important. I think that it's a way to analyze things that aren't always black and white, things that are difficult to prove scientifically, things that need to be looked at in an open mind. You have to think of it as like compiling a crapload of circumstantial evidence, and wherever the circumstantial evidence seems to all pile up in the same area, like a whole bunch of circles meeting in one overlapping area, well, that's a good way to try to seek truth. I mean there are law cases that have been won just based on a surplus of circumstantial evidence that seems to overlap in the same region. So I just want people and skeptics to be somewhat open-minded and not so demeaning when looking at this evidence, because if you do open up your mind, what you see in the universe, well, it's rather spectacular, I would say. And look, guys, I missed opening up the envelope for the remote viewing section for the last episode. So if you did do a remote viewing a couple episodes ago, the code was 13AU9046. I'm gonna go ahead and open it. Now, I don't think anybody, I would say, got a hit, but certainly there were a few individuals, some of them that have won multiple times, that I think have gotten very close answers. So what I'll do is I'll open the envelope and I'll put all the answers of the individuals who I believe got very close to the remote viewing session. So this was a picture that I took a long time ago of Prague. Let's see if I can get this thing out. Yeah, see, the seal's literally stuck to the image. This happened in Prague. And it's basically a couple individuals walking. You only see their back. One individual has a mullet and this awesome No Fear t-shirt, just because of the context of it. It's a little retro and awesome at the same time. So yeah, so I feel like a few people got it somewhat close, and I don't have a remote viewing envelope for this session, but I will be posting a video very soon with a new remote viewing card, so please stay tuned for that. If you have any experiences regarding UFOs, alien abductions, anything that you would like to share, go ahead and email me at eafiles.contact@gmail.com. I have been very busy lately, so I haven't been able to correspond to all my emails properly. I really apologize about that. Now, if you'd like to support this channel in this new age of Google and YouTube censorship, and I can guarantee you, we have the stats, we have been absolutely slaughtered. I mean, pinned down by the octopus of evilness that has essentially kept a lot of discoveries, potential truths from getting out to a bigger audience. But if you do want to support the channel, we will leave a link below. And once again, thank you so much for following us at Second Earth. This is Felipe Osorio, signing out.